Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the National Parents Union presents Speak Your Truth with yours truly, Vivett Dukes. Hope everyone is having a wonderful day. As I always wish you a peaceful, a restful, a wonderful day to find some type of calm in the storm in which we've all been living, the literal storm and the emotional storm, just so much going on in our world, in our country, in our communities. And tonight I want to start off with our News Inside magazine. This is a magazine that Speak Your Truth's very own John Dukes is the assistant for. John is very instrumental in putting together the data and um, supporting the assistant and the director of News Inside, Mr. Lawrence Bartley, with the publication of the magazine via the Marshall Project. Now, the Marshall Project, we've had Lawrence on the show, so he's spoken extensively about the Marshall Project. I am especially proud of this particular edition because it is the first one where John's name is featured under the business section as the News Inside assistant. So shout out, John. I'm so proud of you. So wonderful to see the work that you are doing and how you are reacclimating in your reentry process as a returning citizen. Um, the cover really struck me. It's a great magazine. If you know anybody who is currently incarcerated who would like to receive the magazine, please reach out to J Dukes at themarshallproject.org. And your loved one or whatever, whomever is incarcerated that you know will receive the magazine. It's just well written. It's written by award-winning journalists. Um, the cover really struck me. This is a direct quote from an incarcerated person. It says, "I know that I have basically no rights at all, but I have a 2-year-old daughter that I must be there for, and I will not give up my fight for justice." And that quote on the cover just really struck me when I think about the work that Speak Your Truth does, the advocacy and activism work that we do, and awareness. When I think about the work that the National Parents Union and this parent who is from a marginalized group, when we think about incarcerated men and women, we don't necessarily think about the aspect of their lives that is them as parents. And this person and incarcerated people really don't have rights. Their human rights are stripped. And to know that it is the knowledge of having a 2-year-old daughter that he has to be there for, she has to be there for, that is what compels them to keep fighting for justice. This particular issue is actually very, very important because it talks about the election that is coming up. So it's very important that there are questions in there like, if the election for president were being held today, who would you vote for? And it's broken down based on white voters versus people of color who are voting. What impact has incarceration had on your motivation to vote? Um, it talks about voting rights. How do you feel about police tightening border security? How much does your racial identity inform your political views in prison? There's a COVID-19 survival guide for incarcerated people. So I would encourage all of you, again, if you're interested in getting this magazine, to please reach out and we can get that to you and get that to your loved one who's incarcerated. Tonight we are talking with Shawana Vaughn from Silent Cry Incorporated. Shawana is the Chief Executive Officer of Silent Cry Incorporated, and I'd like to invite her to join us now to engage in a conversation about the impact that prison has and the post-traumatic prison disorder for which she has written a bill and is advocating for strongly. Hi, Shawana, welcome. You're still muted.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. How are you doing?
I am wonderful.
It's so good to see you tonight. I just saw you over the weekend, but it's always good to see you, Shawana.
Yes.
Honestly, um, I know your story. I don't bring guests on the show unless I really know them, so I don't want to tell your story for you. Um, can you tell us a bit about? First of all, are you a parent?
Yes, I am a parent. I am a parent of two beautiful, wonderful children. My son is 18 and my daughter is 7. Absolutely.
Yes, I haven't met your son. I met your daughter over the weekend, and she is a gem, such a bright little girl, so loving, so kind. You're welcome. You're welcome. She showed me a lot of love, even in the warm look that she gave me. I felt it. I was grateful for it. So, how did you get involved? Because I've met you, um, I think we met by you reading something that I wrote, and you reached out to me, and
Yes.
that's how we developed a relationship. And we started communicating, and since then, we've done a lot of advocacy work together in partnership, Speak Your Truth and Silent Cry. But how
Yes.
did Silent Cry get started?
Silent Cry got started out of my own silent tears. And I believe that a lot of people are crying in silence. And Silent Cry is for the mother who birthed me in prison. Silent Cry is for the brother who was murdered December 24th, 1986. Silent Cry is for the father who died August 20th, 1986. Silent Cry is for the prison sentence that I did um, in a county facility. Silent Cry is for the years that I did in Valley State Prison for Women. Silent Cry is for economic disenfranchisement. Um, Silent Cry is me. It is me. And all the suffrage and all the pain, I took it and said, it has to have purpose. This much pain has to have value.
So you just laid out a lot for us there. So you are no stranger to trauma, no stranger to pain. You were actually born in prison.
I was born in prison.
So who raised you like after being born in prison? I know you don't have a recollection of that moment, but from that time when your mother delivered you in prison, what were the next steps as you were told?
Um, I was vendor to the foster care system. Um, and unlike um, my siblings or other people, um, the the foster parents I had, my foster father knew um, my real family, and so that was a great transition because of that, because he had had a relationship with my real family, I was able to know who they were. And if I tell you that my adopted father was a police officer, and this is how I know that community policing and just knowing who people are in your circumference is vital,
Hmm.
because whoever thought that that cop would retire and would be the person to raise me in his home and
Mhm.
I would still get to know my family because of it.
Wow, that's deep. Because that's not the usual narrative that we're used to hearing. That's
No.
why our stories have so much power because no one can refute your lived experience. So, while yes, clearly we have issues within our communities with police officers, your story and your involvement tells you that, hey, when we implement community policing, there's a value to it. He knew you,
Absolutely.
he knew where you came from, he knew your family, and that helped you to keep that family tie. So now,
Absolutely.
did you grow up with your family, your blood family?
Um, Somewhat.
Okay.
I grew up knowing always who my grandmother was, seeing my mother sporadically. Um, but as I got older, I knew who they were. Um, but because of the relationship, I knew who my grandmother was
Hmm.
constantly, consistently. Um, and I think that those are things that are vital. Um, that even though I didn't have my mother,
Hmm.
I had somebody who knew where I came from and knew the issues. And I know that in our communities, drugs has really played a part in the demise. For me, I was born April 15th, 1978, in Corona State Prison for Women because my mother was a drug addict.
Hmm.
And the disparity of substance abuse is evident. We send Black women to prison and we send our counterparts to rehab and programs and outpatient treatments. And we send pregnant Black mothers addicted to drugs to have babies incarcerated in cages.
Yeah.
So 1619 doesn't look so different than 1978.
Still shackled, still
Still
pinned,
shackled.
still having your baby ripped from your womb and taken away, and perhaps not sold away, but in some instances sold away because there is a monetary um, gain when you have a foster child. The systems work. They prey and they survive off of the life, off of black bodies.
Absolutely. They exacerbate us. Absolutely, they do. And every system in place is not in place for our good. A prison system, a foster care system, none of them are meant to make us better because you age out of foster care with nothing, with nothing. And we've gotten a smidge better in the 21st century, but you put foster kids with people and they get a check. Well, that child has to grow up. They turn 17,
Mm-hmm.
they age out,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're left with what? They were never taught how to manage money. Most of them are end up outside because that's not your child. It was a check.
Yes.
And nobody wants to be accountable for that. And I said, that's a system that um, I've not forgotten and it must be tackled.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you're bringing up the point of incarcerated women, incarcerated mothers. I know, speak your truth, my focus, our focus really is on the men incarcerated because that was my entry point. I always worked with, young boys, preventing them from going through the school to prison pipeline and seeing how our men are targeted. But I have learned to understand through women like you, through women like Topeka K. Sam, through women like um, Whitney Q. Hollins, through women like Ebony from We Got Us Now, that
Yes,
mother becomes incarcerated. It disrupts the family dynamic in a very different way because the mother is usually the primary caregiver. And when mom gets incarcerated, children, you know, yes, sometimes dads step up, but more times than not, statistically, foster care does get involved in that case. Whereas if a father becomes incarcerated, there is a mother or another support system there to gird that child to prevent
Absolutely.
them from going into foster care. We would see that more if both parents were incarcerated, you know. So there is a specific need to focus on our women and our girls, you know. And I do see in our school systems how our girls, our black girls' bodies are so governed and policed, and you know, they are targeted more for being disciplined for things that really, that you know, you have an attitude, or the way their clothes are fitting. She cannot help how developed she is, and but those things are used to now criminalize her. Yeah. So thank you for bringing to light just the that nuance of women who are in the criminal injustice system. Yeah. So you ended up in foster care, you aged out of foster care. I'm sure there are so many other things between that time, you know, and the
Absolutely.
time when Silent Cry began. When did you decide that you were going to start this organization?
I pondered it, I played with it, I thought about it, but in 2011, I just started writing um, what what my thoughts were, and then I found a lady who walked me through the incorporation process, and she took me to Fordham Law School. And in 2012, I became incorporated, and I have been grateful because I think it is one of the best things that I've ever done. I call it birthing my third baby because people don't understand. And Vivett, I know you understand because you're out here and you're on the line. And it's one thing to critique people on Facebook or behind an email, but it is another thing when you are out here and you are putting your body on the line.
I've worked
And,
in
you know,
Harlem, and you are literally out there in the community, in the street, providing support, providing resources, honoring those who are doing the work, the people who really are not, you know, there's levels to everything, who are not up here, but who are just in the trenches, as you know, we would say. So you're seeing it. I want our viewers to know, like, this is not something that Shawana has read about. This is like her every day. I was in Harlem this weekend with you, seeing what you do, and it's not the first time.
thank you. And people, we don't understand. And my thing is, we put our bodies, we put our lives, we put our families on hold to fight for other humans. And I don't think that others understand the true sacrifice of humans, period, who put their bodies on the line, who put their lives on the line. And in this moment of Black Lives Matters, I need people to understand that we have 3.6 million or more bodies languishing in prisons around this country.
Mm-hmm.
We have young babies in detention centers in this country in COVID that are dying that nobody is screaming for. And so if Black Lives Matter, then I'm going to need you to scream for every incarcerated human who is being dehumanized and languishing, waiting, living out sentences that are unconscionable because a living death sentence is inhumane. And it is unconscionable that we have more care for the animals in the SPCA in COVID than we do for the human beings who languish in prisons around this country. This is absolutely unacceptable. So I'm calling out everybody screaming, Black Lives Matter, because if they matter, then every one of them have to matter. That means We have to go get people out of prison who are not supposed to be there. Aging prisoners, they must come home. Pregnant women must come home. Right now, I'm fighting for my friend. Her name is Dorita Gail Stevenson in CIW. She has cancer and COVID. She must come home because her Black life matters.
Yes. Even in our own community, there is a disconnection. People go away to prison, they get sent to prison, and they get forgotten about. That's what happens. And you'll have the few true blues who stick around, who do a bid with someone, but for the most part, they fall apart. They just fall to the wayside. But there are people inside who still need to eat, who still are sleeping in cages, literally in cages. We couldn't handle it just being quarantined. I was bugging out like after the first week. I was like, I can't take it. We're not going to be able to go out. Oh my, this is horrible. And I started to get like a heaviness on me. And John had to do a calm pull up, like, whoa, sit, have a seat. What are you talking about? You're not detained. You're free. You can walk outside. You can walk. That's not, don't, mm-mm. I always say, he was the best person to be in quarantine with, because he helped me reshape my mindset and to give me I was empathetic already, but an even deeper empathy. Because I think if people really put themselves in the position where they're handing down these 20 years, 25 years, 35 years, what? In a cage? And then to come home with if you make it home, and that's a big if you make it home, what is available to you to get you back on track from the trauma that you endured? It's just not there. So yes, Black lives matter, including the lives that are incarcerated. We're going to have someone from Release Aging People from Prison on the broadcast in the next few weeks, because that is a big issue as well. What is the reason to keep someone incarcerated for so long? That's a poor reflection on the very system who claims to be charged with correcting and rehabilitating. It takes you 20 years to do that?
Well, we are very clear as a society that slavery is alive and well. And until we amend the 13th, until we become more than 3/4 of a human being, we will keep giving out sentences because white supremacy and profit over Black lives and humans, period.
Prison
And
industrial.
so, we give out these sentences. Right now, I am speaking to men. I deal with a prison in Michigan, Gus Harrison, and I'm dealing with men. And there's a man named Mr. Leroy. Mr. Leroy is an aging prisoner who needs to come home. Mr. Ricardo Farrell, he's done 42 years. I spoke to him the other day and I was in awe. I said, I'm 42. This man has been in prison my entire existence of life. If anybody does not tell me that this 60-plus-year-old, almost 70-year-old man deserves to die in a cage unequivocally, you are wrong. And it is unacceptable that we hand down sentences of this magnitude, that we would give somebody a sentence life
without thinking
life without the possibility of
parole. What about the impact not only on that individual, on their families, on the communities? We have entire communities that are void of men, that are void of strong family units, because incarceration and the prison industrial complex has taken them to be literally slaves. They're enslaved. They're working for 9 cents. When that hand sanitizer that some of you are using was made by incarcerated men and women. Just be clear about that. And the average
Absolutely.
pay is anywhere from 9 to 25 cents an hour. So that's like convict leasing. It's pretty much the same thing. So how far have we really come?
We
So
haven't.
you started Silent Cry, you got incorporated, you decided to put things down. Your a friend got you, took you to Fordham, you got incorporated. And now, to my understanding, you are working on a bill.
Yes,
Okay. Could you tell us
absolutely.
about it,
Thank you
please?
for saying that.
Oh yes, you are. I'm amazed by what you're doing because I thought you were an elected official. I thought you. I said, oh, I didn't know Shawana did all of this. You've introduced a bill. Tell us about it, please.
It's called Post Traumatic Prison Disorder, Shawana W76337.
Mhm.
And somebody had asked me not too long ago, why would you name a bill after yourself? And why would you keep attaching yourself to that prison number? I said, I'm going to die W76337. Not because that is what I am conditioned to, but every time you run my name in a credit report, every time you run my name for an apartment, every time you run my name for, you're going to know and remember that I'm W76337. So how about I use it to the world's advantage
Mhm.
and write a bill
Mhm.
so that at least if I die, it'll stand for something on the books. I wrote a mass incarceration mental health bill. I have the only mass incarceration mental health bill in New York State history.
Mhm.
And if I tell you, I have learned to write since I was about 9 years old. So writing got me through prison like it got me through everything else. And I think I'm a hoarder with paper because I took out some of my journals and entries from prison and I said, this is a lot. What do I do with this? And I talked to other people and I said, I can't be the only one with remnants and residuals from prison. And then I realized that the masses have it. And no politician on the planet Earth should even consciously think about writing mass incarceration legislation because they can't. And I realized that the mental health industry doesn't think about prison because it's not the military, it's not a cute mother who just gave birth. It's people that you threw away. It's people that you believe are not redeemable. But if redemption belongs to everybody, then it definitely belongs to the least of these. And so I'm calling on every human being to support post traumatic prison disorder because the person next door might look like me and you don't know where they came from before they became your neighbor.
So, what is post traumatic prison disorder for those who may not know?
For those who may not know, it is the mental effects from prison and post incarceration and while you're incarcerated. My bill looks like, to break it down in a few, that correctional officers are mandated to therapy upon hiring because nobody talks about the fact that correctional officers cause much harm because they become dehumanized, desensitized, and they are in an atmosphere that is not always conducive, and they become harmful and they become punitive. And some people get these jobs to do such said things. Let's just be honest.
And I've
There are
seen
women.
even when they start off, they may start off as good officers, well intended officers, going in with the best of intentions to help the community, that group dynamics can be of such that the influence of the corrupt officers around them eventually rubs off, and either they leave or they stay and they go deeper down that rabbit hole. And I have experienced this just from being a visitor in the prison and hearing stories of the beatings, of the lies, of the not standing up, and blatantly just causing harm and having no background to say, well, this incarcerated person needs XYZ, or let me talk them down the ledge, or let me. No, it's just more anger and more trauma. So definitely correctional offers. I'm sorry to cut you off. I definitely needed to just chime in on that because I've seen it up close and personal, but even from a limited view where it's just not right.
Absolutely. And so I'm asking for therapy. And I'm also asking that 60 days into a person coming into incarceration, that they are granted vendor therapy. Because we have therapists in prison that are not even qualified nor trained. They're not trauma informed. And I have met one of the best psychologists in this country, and her name is Dr. Carol Ann Griffith Hunt. And she has joined to help Silent Cry with this bill. And she is a trauma informed African American go hard woman.
I know her as well.
And
Yes.
so you know that I'm telling the truth.
Yes, you are.
She is the truth. And she explains the trauma. And she is championing my bill. And we need to be clear that we need Black and brown therapists in prisons talking to Black and brown humans who are trauma informed. Because a textbook therapist cannot help somebody that you can't even identify with. We need therapists that people incarcerated, whatever they are. We need diversity and inclusion. So I'm asking for vendored therapy. Because I no longer want the BOP and the DOC to pick anything, because they're punitive and they're going to do the bare minimal. Their health care is less than, their mental health care is none. And so people reoffend because they're traumatized. People come in prison and they're traumatized before they ever get there, probably 10 times. That's how they got there. And so if we don't deal with the trauma, then people will reoffend because we forgot to deal with them in their trauma, in their totality.
That root cause.
There's a root
What led
cause.
there? Because every person who I have spoken with, and even I'll just speak about on this show, this broadcast, most have said, those who are formerly incarcerated have said they came from backgrounds where trauma entered their lives early on, and it went unaddressed and it was compounded upon, and that it was those litany of traumas that led to ultimately their own incarceration or the incarceration of their mother, father, in whatever way incarceration entered their lives intimately. It was as a result of traumas, usually not just one,
No,
and over the course of time. And traumas, because we all have traumas to some extent, but traumas left unaddressed, and also traumas dismissed, like, all right, get over it, or that's the norm, what are you crying for, like that's the culture. But is trauma supposed to be part of anyone's culture?
no, unequivocally not. And unfortunately, Vivett, as an African American woman growing up, I can only speak for who I am and what I've grown up with. The African American community, we have a policy like the military: don't ask, don't tell. Keep everything in the house, in the house. No. If it hurts, tell it. Don't tell some of it, don't tell part, tell it all. And that's our problem. We cannot afford to be silent with our cries any longer. We are in families that are broken. We are in families that are hurt. We are in families that are suffering from 400 years of slavery. You know, like Dr. Carol Ann says, semen has trauma in it.
Hmm.
And so We are constantly in trauma and we are never in seek of help because nobody wants nobody to get healed. And I'm over it. I'm over it and I'm done because listen, my children will never see prison. My grandchildren will never see prison. Nor do I want any more generations to see prison. We've all done enough time for them. Let's get them free. Let's get them mentally healthy so they can heal. Children of incarcerated parents become incarcerated. How do I know? Raise my hand. My children will not be incarcerated. Nobody wants a legacy of incarceration.
No,
Nor do I think we desire a legacy of trauma.
absolutely not.
So now I'm calling for holistic, comprehensive mental health therapy so we can deal with our traumas, we can deal with recidivism, and we can come home better than we went. That means that we're going to be mentally whole because I believe my hashtag for my bill is birthing pain. It's like birthing a baby with no anesthetic. You just got to go through it, and it doesn't feel good. But to be whole, we got to be broken to be whole.
So are those the entire components of your bill?
The rest of the components, I'm actually asking for marijuana as therapy post incarceration because Black and brown people have suffered from the RICO Act, the 1994 crime bill, the war on drugs from Ronald Reagan. We have people languishing in federal prisons and in state prisons for marijuana when the FBI owns the patent. Absolutely unacceptable. Let them out right now. Nobody should be in prison right now on a marijuana drug charge. So if we can give marijuana to the soccer mother, to the people from the military with post-traumatic stress disorder, to the mother who has postpartum, I want it for post-traumatic prison disorder. Because if it has all the medical properties, then it'll ease them too. So how about we get reparations for marijuana in this manner?
Yes.
I'm asking for art therapy. I believe the arts will totally save people. I'm asking for talk therapy, one-on-one group sessions. I'm asking for un unconventional therapy because therapy is not a one size fits all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm asking for trauma therapists to do intakes and meet people where they are. If you got somebody in so much trauma that they can't even talk, they might need to write they until they can talk they therapy. They might need to draw their therapy. They might need to write their therapy and put it in dissolving water. For those people who are post incarceration at home, they might need to go ride horses. They might need to go to art therapy. They might need to go to yoga. They might need to go to meditation. But we're not going to put restrictions on what therapy looks like. And we're no longer doing it a textbook way. We're going to do what works for each individual. And we don't know what that is until we unconventionally try it. One person, one narrative at a time until we get it right. We're not going to box people into the textbook any longer because we're hurting and we're in trauma and we've got to get healed. So this is what my bill looks like. And Brian Benjamin is the senator in New York that has it. And Assemblyman Jewel Jones is the person in Michigan who has it.
Okay. So what are the first of all, before I even ask you another question, I just need to sit with what you just said and to honor you for the work that you were doing because our mental health is just as important as our physical health. And so I just thank you, Shawana, for taking the pains of your life and using them to help others and really writing a comprehensive bill that is right now with a senator on a senator's desk That's a huge undertaking. I'm sure that was not an easy feat at all. How will this bill move forward? What can be done to help this bill move forward?
Well, the help that is needed is hashtags. It is calling the legislators. It is telling them to sign on. Um, and I would be remiss if I did not thank the National NAACP convention for passing post traumatic prison disorder as a resolution.
Wow.
Um, Thank you to Lynn Spivey and Dr. Hazel Dukes and the NAACP convention committee who picked my bill as a resolution, because they were the first sponsors at the national convention last summer.
Wonderful.
And, you know, we have to keep saying it. We have to keep hashtagging it. We have to keep saying that it is needed. I have a survey that I'll share with you that I want people to fill out. It is vital that we get formerly incarcerated people or people impacted, women, men, and children impacted by the person that's incarcerated, to fill out this survey and say, this is a bill that must be passed. This is a bill that we need, because we do not want our loved one incarcerated anymore. We do not want our loved one unhealthy. We want to bring someone home that is well. And we want to put our families back together as well as we can be, and well enough to function to be free.
Absolutely.
And
Please make
so
sure
I,
you
I
add,
need support.
absolutely. Please make sure you put that in the comments so that those viewing it, whether live or on the replay, will have the opportunity to go on that Google form and to learn more about the post-traumatic prison bill. Okay. Um, I understand you are going to DC. What's taking place in DC?
Get off my neck.
Hmm.
Tomorrow, well, I'll be leaving at 2 o'clock this morning, and we are on the bus. And thank you, National Action Network, for giving, for the ability to have a bus and go to DC. Um, we're getting on the bus because we're sick and tired of being sick and tired. I mean, I'm Fannie Lou Hamer, Shirley Chisholm tired. But how long will we march
Mm.
and put paint on the ground without policy and legislation to follow? We talk about Jay-Z and Beyonce with 5 generations of money. Well, I need 5 generations of policy and legislation that'll change the tide for my Black grandchildren for 5 generations. So for me, I am getting on this bus. I am going to march. I am going to give it everything I have for history, for symbolic, for lives that have been lost unnecessarily at the hands of law enforcement and by racism and white supremacy. I am going because I am a mother of Black children. I am going because if you don't lay your body on the line, shut your mouth. And in this moment, we are so divided, and I need to bring clarity to division. 57 years this will be the anniversary of Martin Luther King. And we don't have many leaders left who can say they marched with or they were there on that bridge, because those people are dying off. That legacy is leaving. And so where much is owed, much is required. And, I got to say, thank you, Bernice King. Thank you, Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you, Al Sharpton. Seriously. See, we don't have to agree with everybody all the time, but you know what? We got to stand for something, and we got to stand with people that stand with that thing. I don't care if you agree, you don't agree. So I'm getting on this bus and I'm taking young people and people who've never been to marches, because it's time to be in solidarity. It is time that we say in one voice and one body, no more bodies. We just watched a body in Wisconsin. We watched a whole human be shot 7 times. That is my son. That is my brother. That is somebody's son. That is somebody's husband. That is somebody's father. That is unacceptable.
Who is paralyzed from the waist down, from what I just read before coming on the broadcast, but is currently handcuffed in in his prison, in his bed, in his hospital bed. He's handcuffed. He's paralyzed. Where's he going? The dehumanization, the indignity that continues to just be paraded and perpetuated upon our Black and brown families. It's honestly, I haven't even written or so this is the first time I'm actually speaking about it in a public way because it hurts deep. We don't get over one before going to another. These are not hashtags, these are real live people with real families, their parents, and in front of your child.
Mm-mm.
When would that, what, how, in what part of anyone's mind is that acceptable?
And you just blew my mind. You said he's the one that's handcuffed.
Yeah, he's handcuffed.
But the person that shot him is getting a check sitting behind the desk. Why is he handcuffed? For what?
You know.
I can't. I can't because
Fault he got shot. You know how it goes. It's your
yeah.
fault he got shot. It's your fault.
But in this America, we allowed a 17-year-old Caucasian child to have an illegal AR-15, shoot 3 people, kill 2 people. His mother drove him with this weapon. Why is she not in jail? Why is he not in jail on his way to prison doing a life sentence? He made it home after he shot people. We have a government who almost praised him.
Yes, and walked past the police with the rifle after just committing the crime. And it was like, hey, what up? Hey, what up? Yeah, it's very serious. It is very serious. So you're marching tomorrow. You're going to DC. Where is the march? Do you know the specifics of where the march?
They just had. I just looked not too long ago. They just put it up. Like the welcome, I think, starts at about 7. And the pre events start about 9 to 11, and then the march is at I think 3 at like 2. And then they're going to be speakers and presentations and families talking. George Floyd's brother, his family's definitely speaking, and some other families. And I don't want another T-shirt that says "I can't breathe." I don't want to imagine that my daughter will get shot laying in her bed. I don't want to have to navigate living in poverty or in disenfranchised neighborhoods where crime is high because people don't have the same economic equity. And then I have to navigate, the Blue Lives Matter, because that's white supremacy and racism. And we are going to march, and we are going to come back, and I'm going to challenge and task organizations, human beings, to write policy and legislation as neighborhoods, as coalitions, as individuals, as churches. Because right now we are not in a position not to. And if the legislator that you are in their district says they won't carry your bill, vote them out. I'm marching in Washington because this is the ballot or the bullet right now. And I need to encourage every human being to get out and vote.
Thank you. November 3rd, you have votes. And I'm not just talking about for the president. The
No.
votes are taking place for on a local, state, and national level. It is important, everyone under the sound of my voice, under the sound of Shawana's voice, please listen, play this again if you need this, have this on constant replay. It is important that you look at the voting record of those who are up for office. It is important that you enact your right to vote. Please, if you are not registered, you can still go and register. If you need to do a mail-in vote, do your mail-in vote. If you need to do an absentee vote, do an absentee vote. If you're not sure what those things are, contact me, Vivett at mpunion.org. MP National Parents Union is promoting that every family votes. This is not optional. It was never optional. It is crucial that we get out and vote. I'm talking about voting for your judges, okay? Voting for your Congress and senators, and look at their voting history. Have they voted for legislation that is improving your quality of life? It's crucial. It is so crucial. It is so crucial. Yes, Shawana, you put up your information. Tell us more. Tell us what we have, like 15 minutes left in the broadcast. I appreciate you bringing that point up because the model that you're showing us really is an effective model. It is not enough to just march.
No.
Marching and protesting is a part. There is something that comes from the visibility of banding together in a very visible public way, right? That does do things. However, as you talked about, John Lewis and Dr. King and our ancestors who came before us, they did not just march. Their marching eventually led to legislation being passed. It led to, and they were marching for voting and other things like that. So there's a whole formula. There are many ingredients that go into this. I would ask you, Shawana, if you could please stream, go live tomorrow as much as you can for those
Absolutely.
of us who are not able to make it. What else can we do to support Silent Cry? I ask all my guests, how can the National Parents Union support the work that you are doing?
I'm at a point where I understand that closed mouths don't get fed. And if somebody in this juncture wants to support Silent Cry is in need of funding. Silent Cry is in need of strong board members. Silent Cry is in need of human beings who have the audacity to believe that we can write legislation as an organization. So if you are somebody who wants to volunteer, I'm looking for interns. If you want to collaborate and write policy and legislation, I'm looking for you. We can't have equity if we don't have financial equity. And to do this work, though I will do this work until I die if nobody gives me a penny. Let's be clear about that. But it makes it easier to do the work if there's something to do the work with.
Yes. And where is Silent Cry Incorporated based?
In Harlem, well, in New York, in Manhattan.
Okay, but in this day and age of online, how can someone get in contact with you if they need to?
Yes, so my organization's website is silentcryinc.org, silentcry.org. If you want to email me, it is Shawanna, SHAWANNA at silentcryinc.org. And if you really, really just want to get a hold of me, 718-200-2720. And some people say, why would you give out your personal number? Because this is a personal job. And unfortunately, for those of us who are truly out here, there's no 8 to 5 and 9 to 5. We wish there was a turn off and a cutoff, but we don't choose when people get hurt, and we don't choose when people go to jail, or when there's somebody that just wants you to come sit with them in central booking.
You have a sock drive going on, right? I know you do, like, you do so many things. She's very active in her community.
Yes.
I know you have a back to school sock drive, since so many kids will be learning remotely and
Remotely,
home.
yes.
Can you tell us about that, please?
So I have been giving out socks and slippers because we know that if someone is cold, if someone doesn't have proper warmth, um, that's important. And, kids are going back to school, kids are going outside, but some kids are staying home to learn remotely. And we have socks and slippers. And if somebody wants to partner and do an event, please email me, call me, tag me, Facebook me, because I have enough to give out, and would love to be a part of changing the narrative for any child. If you don't have them and you need them, email me, tag me, find me on Facebook at Silent Cry or at Shawana Vaughn, and I definitely will be more than willing to give you. And if you need, please, by all means, if your organization that wants to partner and give it away, let's do that, because we don't know what people have or they don't have. And we just want to be able to be a resource. We want to be able to be available. And so if anybody needs socks and slippers and things for kids, we have those. But as requests for an organization, I'm doing a hygiene drive.
Yes.
And I'm doing a hygiene drive because there are people in COVID in our city who have been forgotten. And we have some people who are at Penn Station, and they're at 125th and Lexington, and they're at 3rd Avenue, and they're in the South Bronx, and they're in Hempstead, Long Island at the train station. And they have been forgotten about because they don't match the narrative. They sleep outside, or they sleep at Ward's Island that is unfit for dogs from the SPCA. And so I can't task everybody with my task. And if you can't come out and stand with me, I want you to, if you are able and it is in your heart, only do what is in your heart. If you can give toothbrushes, soap, towels, lotion, deodorant, whatever you would give yourself, please donate to Silent Cry so we can give it to somebody else
We've
that
partnered.
does not have the luxury to have these items, and they're outside in COVID.
Yes, we've partnered. Speak Your Truth has partnered with Shawana on several events. We're partnering with Silent Cry to do a sock drive on Long Island and some of the neighborhoods that you just mentioned. We are partnering with you to also deliver toiletries. There's one thing that those of you watching who are not as familiar with the impact of incarceration, people's basic needs are not being met. And so basic needs have to be met. When I'm talking about basic needs, I'm talking about food and shelter and clothing and warmth. And while you might say, yeah, but they can go and get that anywhere. Listen, we just had a guest on Monday who said in Brooklyn they did not have enough food to give out to people. There are food deserts in Brooklyn. COVID-19 has rendered many communities, many pantries that used to be able to give these things out, they can't anymore. I'm listening to rain in my background right now. It's pouring rain outside. Now, if you might not be thinking about socks, is you may be able to come home and take off those wet clothes and bundle up in your towel and put on a fresh pair of socks. What if you don't have that?
Come on now.
It's real, like it's that's the level of humanity, of empathy, of understanding. Like, kind of get out of your comfort zone, because for many of us, we're not thinking about these things because it's just so automatic. But there are many people who do not have that. A pair of warm socks would be such a blessing, so the work you're doing is so needed on every level, from the smallest work to the greatest work. There's nothing too small, you know. So we, again, it's www.silentcryinc.org. Is that correct?
Yes.
You can reach out to Shawana Vaughn. She's on Facebook. She's on multiple platforms. Google her. She's there. And if you need to contact her, you reach out. Please reach out.
And before we go, Dr. Carol Lynn Griffith Hunt is actually watching us.
Oh,
And you are amazing. You are absolutely amazing. And look at the universe, Vivett.
thank you. Because that is my sister, and I'm thankful. I didn't even know you two were connected. I didn't know you two were connected until I think you posted something a couple days ago. I think it was over the weekend. And you shared something, and I was like, oh, I know her. Wonderful. Wonderful. Shawana, I thank you for being here this evening.
Yes.
Um, you're just so inspiring to me.
Thank you.
You really are. And I've said it before, I don't know why we, Speak Your Truth, has found favor in your sight, because we have, and the bond that we have, and the way, like, literal, we were strangers, and then it's like we just met, and it's been a consistent journey. You've been consistent. You're not a fly by night. This is not a one time. This is not someone who just popped up, got a few things and given them out, and then they're going. No, this is a legitimate organization, someone who is putting in the work, someone whose pain has informed her process, and informs her mission. And she's a voice for the voiceless. And we're blessed to have you, quite frankly. Thank you.
I love you.
Yes, I love you too. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Please safe travels on the road
Absolutely.
tomorrow. If you can go live, go live. Please let us know when you return. And as you continue to do more work in the community, please let us know. I would encourage you to join the National Clearance Union as a member if you have not already done so, because membership has its benefits. So please join. And I thank you. I want to give you the closing words. Anything you'd like to close with?
I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, Vivett. Thank you, John. You guys are amazing. You guys are doing amazing work. You're amazing people. And I thank you that we as collectively are going to make a difference and an impact in people's lives. And I will go live tomorrow. And for those of you who cannot do this work, support this work. And I don't just mean Silent Cry. Pick any organization that your heart desires and support them. And support doesn't always mean money. Time and talent is amazing. Give it, if you have it, to an organization that you can build up, that you feel comfortable with. Um, do something daily that gives you humanity. And please, I'm asking for support for a bill. If that's nothing more than you sending me an email telling a politician or a legislator this must happen,
Yes.
and that is what you can do, that is enough.
Yes. We have the bill on Speak Your Truths page, so people can go there. And please remember to share the Google form as well. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. That's it for this evening's broadcast. I thank all of you for your time, for your attention, for your thoughtfulness, for your empathy, for your humanity, for hearing not only with your physical ear, but with your heart, because this is a work of heart. So we thank you. Be safe. Until next time, we're signing off for now. The National Parents Union presents Speak Your Truth with our guest for tonight, Silent Cry Inc., CEO Shawana Vaughn. Thanks to all of you. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, you're out.